right, you're good to go.
Hi, my name is Justin Mobley. I work for Bruker Biospin Corporation as a technical sales rep for the Southeast region. And so Eduardo had invited me to do this, and I thank you guys for attending. Let's see if I can get my slides to move forward. So here we go. Who I work for. So like I said, I work for Bruker Biospin Corporation, which is part of Bruker Corporation. Biospin just being one of the entities of it. And we make scientific instruments such as NMR, so nuclear magnetic resonance, MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, mass spec, X-ray diffraction, and X-ray fluorescence, infrared, near infrared, and Raman spectrometers, atomic force microscopes, fluorescence microscopes, some microtomography, and a whole lot more. My portion of the company, we deal with nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometers, and we make everything from 300 megahertz up to 1.2 gigahertz spectrometers, as well as a benchtop 80 megahertz spectrometer. We were founded in 1960 in Germany, and as of 2017, we had a revenue of about 1.77 billion. So we are a pretty large company. So in case you don't know what is NMR, so NMR, you can think of like magnetic resonance imaging at the hospital. So if you were to get sick and they were to put you in an MRI and get an image, it works kind of the same way, except instead of an image, you get a spectrum, and that spectrum tells you how a molecule is connected. So here you'll see a picture of an NMR spectrometer, and you'll put your sample in the instrument, and that sample will give you spectra depending on which experiments you run, and based off of that, you can tell that it's how it's connected. So in this case, you're seeing the spectra of aspirin. So how I got here, I like to say networking, and that's not entirely how I got here, but that's certainly part of it. A lot of walking through open doors. So when something was, available, I just kind of said, okay, let's give that a shot. And then having a strong technical background. And so I have a bit of my education and professional resume here. For those of you that are K through 12, I was a 2005 Governor's Scholar, and I graduated from Madison Central High School in Richmond, Kentucky, with a Commonwealth diploma. So that means I completed the 4 AP classes to get that. I'm not sure those are even available anymore, but certainly they were when I was going through school. I then did a BS in chemistry with a Spanish minor from Western Kentucky University, and I was an honors college graduate. And while I was there, I did undergraduate research with Chad Snyder, who happened to be a former graduate of the University of Kentucky, with Jack Seeley, and he introduced me to Jack, and based off of that, I did a research experience for undergraduates at the University of Kentucky. While I was there, I actually met who would be my PhD advisor, and that was Mark Crocker. So I actually did my PhD with Mark at the University of Kentucky on oxidative depolymerization of lignin, and again, while I was there, towards the end of my program, I actually had the opportunity to become the NMR Center Manager because I was doing some NMR experiments that were more advanced with Anne Francis Miller. And, that blossomed into me getting to be a graduate assistant NMR Center Manager. And, that kind of led to the rest of my career. So I went ahead and did my postdoc after that at the University of Wisconsin-Madison under Dr. John Ralph, again on lignin utilization, but I did a lot of NMR while I was there. I mean, we had 2 NMRs in the basement that were for our lab, and so that's essentially what I did on a day-to-day basis. And by the way, that getting that postdoc was partially because I was the NMR Center Manager, but also because my lab mate, Eduardo Centillion Jimenez, actually met John Ralph at a conference and said, this guy, Justin Mobley, would be really good in your lab. He's a lignin researcher and he really enjoys your work. You should talk to him. So I ended up reaching out to John, and John offered me a postdoc in his lab. So again, it's just showing how networking can get you where you're going to go. In 2017, a position opened up as the NMR Center Director at the University of Kentucky. And because I was the NMR manager, there, and I wanted to come back to Kentucky because my family was there. Um, I applied for that position, and again, being the NMR Center manager and already knowing, the center and everything, that allowed me to be the NMR Center director and get hired in that job. I was also named an adjunct professor while I was there, and then beyond that, I had purchased an NMR from Bruker Biospin, and my sales rep thought I would be really good in sales. So when a position opened up at Bruker, he actually suggested me, and I was able to get an interview and ultimately land the job at Bruker because of, again, this networking. So it kind of just loops around to show you that networking is really, really helpful in landing these positions. But also, you need to have the strong technical background to do that, and be willing to walk through an open door when you're given the chance, rather than just sitting in your comfort zone. What I do, most of what I do is consult and prepare configurations and offers for clients. We work with clients to offer custom solutions, whether that be, custom configurations for their NMR sense systems that they're going to purchase, or accessories that they're going to purchase after the fact. That's essentially what I do on a day-to-day basis. But I also introduce customers to new solutions and develop collaborative efforts, whether that be between the customer and Bruker, or even sometimes between two separate customers that may not know, that they are potentially beneficial to each other. But most of this all boils down to the fact that it's a lot of problem solving, and every day is a new challenge, and it's something different. You're not doing the same thing over and over and over again. You're literally thinking critically about everything you do all the time. The best part of my job is certainly the fact that I get to travel and I get to see a lot of different places. But that's a double-edged sword, and I'll talk about that in a bit. I get to meet new people all the time, and every day is something completely different. Of course, because I'm in sales, I get to set my own schedule. So it's not to say that you aren't working all the time, or are working all the time, but that is to say that you need to be self-motivated. And some weeks are going to be kind of slow, and you're going to get to kind of relax a little bit more. And some weeks are going to be really heavy, and so you're going to have to really put in a lot more effort. I also get to work from home, which is super nice. And certainly during this whole COVID-19 thing, it's been really easy to transition. And lastly, I'm on the cutting edge of science. So literally when a new technology comes out, I know about it before everyone else. And I get to introduce it to clients and show them how this new technology might be able to advance their work. The worst part of my job, again, is travel. Travel is really nice, but it also gets tiring pretty easily. So, it's a balance, and you have to work in how much travel you're going to do, because customer FaceTime means a lot, but you also don't want to burn yourself out. You also have to know that you can't please everyone, and sometimes things just aren't going to work out. There are a lot of variables beyond your control in sales, and that usually boils down to somehow money. The client has to be able to go out and get the money to buy your systems. You can't do that for them. Even if it's the perfect system for their research, sometimes you're not going to be able to make that connection just because, you can't do it for free. Beyond that, sometimes a customer is going to be unhappy, and you have to do what you can to make sure that they feel appreciated, and that we're not just out there to sell them something, but also to develop a relationship with them that's going to last for a long period of time. So a couple of things I wish I had known, certainly during my PhD and even now, is that reading is super valuable. I like to say when I was in academia that 1 week reading will save you 4 weeks in the lab, and that is always true. Reading is going to really help you out in your work, and I suggest that you spend as much time reading the literature or the technical guides or whatever your career ends up being that you can. So who you know can get you as far as what you know, and that's in careers and research. There are plenty of people that I've known that have been very good in their, research and very smart, and not necessarily able to get the career that they wanted. And there are plenty of people that have done the absolute opposite of that. But the fact is that knowing people and networking is incredibly valuable, and you should really spend the time to develop those relationships. Um, Grad school is hard, and grad school is certainly not something that's for everyone. Uh, it's a relationship with an advisor. It's a commitment, and you really have to dedicate yourself to working hard in graduate school to get through it. And I think I kind of turned in circles for a couple of years when I first started grad school because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And it all worked out, but at the end of the day, if I would have realized that, I think I would have done better. Think about the big picture. When it comes to research, it's really easy to get lost in the small details of your project and what your project is meaning to you. But at the end of the day, you have to think about what is it going to mean to the rest of the world, and how is it going to be applicable to the rest of the world, because the bigger picture is how you really get yourself funded. So think about the big picture, and think about how you can connect your work to someone else, because a lot of times that'll develop some sort of collaboration that's incredibly valuable. Common sense goes a long way, and with that, learn to read the room. So when I was in grad school, I think I noticed that a lot of people were not very good at reading the room, and they didn't have an idea that they were getting themselves into a rabbit hole that was going to be really easy to get stuck in. And essentially they would end up saying something that either wasn't true or they didn't really know. And so it's okay to say I don't know. It's okay to say I'll find out the answer. And you just need to understand that what people are thinking when they're speaking to you. So learn to read the room. And then lastly, public speaking is really worth your time, and I suggest that you practice that, because as a community, I think scientists do a really bad job at communicating their ideas, and that's especially true with the general population. But even communicating your ideas with your colleagues, public speaking is really worth your time, and you should spend some effort learning to speak in public. With that, I mean, this is really the big part of what I do, and some just general advice. If you have questions, feel free to let me know, or ask me, or contact me.
All right. Well, I had one pre-prepared question, so I figure I'll go ahead and ask that.
Sure.
What, past the technical knowledge of the machinery, what kind of skills did the lab give you that transferred really well into your current job?
Yeah, I think that the lab allowed me to really understand, what research was all about, and how hard it is to, one, get funded for things, but also once you are funded, how hard it is to, you know, have enough money to do your work, and finding the collaborations that you need to do your work. Because a lot of times, you might not have the funding, but someone else, may have it. And, it's easy to set up a collaborative effort, and it ends up being mutually beneficial, because, at some point down the road, they may ask you to help them out on, working on a project or something as well. But I think being in the lab, it really helped me understand the fact that, research is really diverse, and it's really good to collaborate.
All right. Well, that's all. So thank you so much for the talk.
Thank you, and have a good day, and a great rest of the conference.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.